Welcome, beloved hearts, into the loving embrace of the divine. I would like to invite you to bring your awareness to your heart, where we can truly connect as one. I am Katrina Armstrong, and I stand before you today as a testament to the power of the divine. I embarked on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth, all of which has birthed the alchemical movement that is Divinity in Action, that I am ecstatic to share with you here. Allow us to guide you through the wisdom of our esteemed leaders and uncover the secrets of the universe to unlock your true potential, as I had done in my life when I embraced the Christ consciousness and ascended into higher expressions of my soul potential. I'll share with you the teachings and wisdom that have helped me to transcend from my earthly bounds and realize the true expression of my soul. I'll be joined by some of the most compassionate and authentic spiritual leaders worldwide who also experience divinity in action. Allow us to share our insights and experiences. I invite you to join me on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Together we'll break free from past programming and conditioning and fully embrace our true selves. Join me in welcoming Madalyn Love. Madalyn is a guardian of the sacred and holds a compassionate field to mirror the truth and beauty of the soul. She is a multidimensional divine vision initiator that speaks directly to the soul level. While being skilled in ancestral, personal, collective, and soul-level integration and healing, she supports in unraveling distortion and retrieving the authentic self and multidimensional embodiment of the divine human potential. Her greatest joy is merging the human body with soul-level integration, utilizing plant allies, sound, yoga, and sacred sexuality. She guides expansion of inner infrastructure and building etheric architecture for resonance and powerful co-creation through somatic sexual education and sexological bodywork. Madalyn was initiated with the sacred plant medicine of the Mayan and Aztec people, cacao. She has been traveling the world the last 6 years sharing this medicine and supporting individuals and communities of people in connecting to this plant and the intelligence of their heart. She is also a singer-songwriter that has channeled in many songs that are powerful transmissions to connect to the emerald heart of humanity. How beautiful it is to have you here with us, Madalyn. My body is vibrating so much right now. As I was preparing for us coming together, I can really feel the depth of the somatic work that you do in your practice. Because my body is already like opening up and already speaking to me as we prepare for this journey of the Eros as a spiritual path. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here to bring this forward, to bring us back into this innate essence. I am so excited to hear what comes through here today. And I know everyone listening can feel the depth of how this is already touching the body and welcoming us in. So already I can tell that your essence really invites people in. It's almost like this sense of like sister or, like welcoming, like family. So thank you. Thank you for your essence and for this journey that we get to go on today.
Thank you so much for the invitation to share. And I'm, super excited to offer all the desires that come through and, to just share some of the things that I've learned and explored in this territory that just feels so foundational to the essence of our humanity, which then translates into our multidimensional selves.
Oh, I love that you speak of this as foundational. And, my experience, it can take people a little while to get here, right? Or to not be afraid, right? To feel this or to reach this part of themselves. Why is that? Why is it that we tend to like hide away or, distract ourselves from this innate essence?
Well, from what I've uncovered within myself and what I've experienced with working with clients in this way and groups of people is it's such a multifaceted, layered experience. And the more that we dive in, the more layers there are. But what I've discovered is, kind of the top surface layer of this is our own personal individual experiences that we've had in this lifetime around our culture and our sexual education. And the
Mm.
sexual education can be in so many things, like even our parents not talking about sex with us is still a form of education. That was still an imprint.
Wow.
Our sexual education with school, with our churches and religion, with our culture and pornography. There's like, those are very kind of the surface layer aspects of what I see, can really create an uncomfortability around navigating this territory. And of course, as we navigate those surface layers, then there's deeper layers to access. Maybe it's working with our genetics and our ancestors and their imprinting that's still running in our body, or other lifetimes that we've experienced where we've had trauma, not just in this lifetime but in other lifetimes that we're carrying at a soul level, or maybe we've been impacted really deeply at a soul level from working with this energy, and that has created an unconscious interference in our system to feel safe with fully surrendering into this energy and really exploring it in a way that is get life-giving, for our human.
Wow. The image that I get is like this fear of being consumed. Like,
Mm.
oh, if I go there, I'm just going to get consumed by this. And there is, a lot of things in our religion, in our upbringing that's like, hey, this is not okay. As you were saying, that education or not having an education, how it imprints us. I'm appreciating that you really speak about, this expansion into our fullest purpose, pleasure, and prosperity. So I get this strong knowing that this very place that we find ourselves in layers, as you were saying, like the surface layers. But once we get to that depth, how it really impacts, our understanding of our purpose, of our pleasure, and of prosperity. These words, there's so many different meanings and ways that we can look at it. But coming from this angle of looking at it from our somatic, from our body, from our pleasure with the body, I know that in order for us to do anything here, we have to actualize, we have to physicalize it, right, through this body. So it's just so intriguing to me, this topic, like that disconnect that we find there and that ground that you work on. So, these blocks to our pleasure and abundance, what do you find is happening there? Like, why is it, why is it such a taboo or place that, we've spent so long being either taught, things away from it, or we go to an extreme, right? We go to the complete other side of it where we're extremely free and our energy and our energy can be all over the place. So I'm curious, like, how do we find that balance? Is that balance point where we find that purpose, pleasure, and prosperity?
Well, it's such a good question, and acknowledging those kind of, like hyper pendulum swings that some of us are either existing in or also navigate all of those swings in our journey with this. And some of the things that I see are, um, some of the biggest blockages to this is our trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that when we experience trauma, that's actually coming from an experience that's happening where we disassociate from the body. Therefore, the body physically isn't capable of digesting and integrating the data of what's happening. And so it lodges in the body. And many of us carry sexual trauma or trauma with our parents at our roots, which then impacts the sacral energy. And so, that's what I've found is like a big blockage to that. And as we are willing to go into that, which I feel like one of the reasons why many of us stay, disconnected from our pleasure, our prosperity, and our purpose is because of that information and energy that's lodged in the body and in the energy system that actually can't create a free flowing energy, not only through the energy system that is like our power center, but really our nervous system and an essence of feeling safe. Like it's safe to be in my pleasure. It's safe to have money. It's safe to be in my purpose, and I'm not going to get ostracized from the tribe, or I'm not going to get murdered for it. Like there's so many layers to this. And so it's like once we can establish, navigating and integrating this stuck energy in the body that can show up as trauma, and we learn how to experience and expand our capacity for high sensation through our nervous system, that allows us to expand the high sensation of being in our purpose, serving at a great capacity, receiving an abundance of money, receiving an abundance of pleasure. Like we have to expand our nervous system capacity to be able to hold that. This is why I also find so many people, let's say, will receive love or receive abundance, and then they can't hold on to it. It's actually like also a part of a nervous system capacity to be able to hold that structure within the physical vessel that translates in so many other ways. And that point you were speaking to around kind of like the opposite pendulum swing, what I've found is that we can think that we're liberated in this energy, and it can kind of turn up as like a false liberation of like what you were sharing about our energy kind of just being scattered. It's our life force energy that's being scattered, and it can be perceived as liberation, in one form because we're not closing ourselves off to that energy, but actually that can really be an overcompensation for so many other things. And what I found is true liberation is actually being able to manage the high sensation of arousal and our sexual energy, our erotic life force energy, without it being scattered, like us being able to actually navigate it and direct it in a way that is life-giving, that's expanding our creations, that's expanding our capacity to serve in our purpose, in our pleasure, in our prosperity, is like to hold it. Like liberation isn't just this like externally focused expansion. It's also actually holding tension in the body.
Wow. Whoa. As you say that, Madalyn, like my whole body I'm feeling the sensation of like pleasure, purpose and prosperity, like as if they were like lines that are lighting up for me. And like right at the core of it, my inner essence, my innocence, gets ignited here. And this sensation, this understanding that, is vibrating through my being right now, that this place, this innocence, this knowing, and through my work, I speak often about how the body is very innocent, that it wasn't really designed to hold all of these things. So knowing that the body itself is innocent and our own core being, and what I see as our power, our innocence, our true essence, when it aligns with the innocence of the body, what happens there. It's so miraculous. So I would love to go into innocence, but before we do, I'm curious, like, how do we work with this nervous system? Because it sounds like that's the key.
Yeah, so what I've found, as far as the nervous system goes, is being able to, first of all, feel it. Like, so many of us are disassociated from our bodies that we actually aren't even able to track our nervous systems. And so the first place that I've started on my journey that I find is the thing that interferes most with the nervous system is actually our breath. And so when we are, most of us are walking around the world bombarded with so much energy and like a go, 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 do, do, do culture that we're so disconnected from presence of our breath in our body, and we're mostly chest breathing, and it's a rapid chest breathing that's not a deep belly breath, that's not a slow inhale and exhale. And so when we're in that rapid breathing, that chest breathing that isn't actually allowing the oxygen to flow fully and easefully, we go into a sympathetic dominant state of our nervous system, which is fight, flight, or freeze, and sometimes fawning. And so when we're primarily operating from that place, and let's say we're primarily operating from that place and we go into an erotic experience with someone, our lens of perception that we're experiencing that through is through fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And versus when we are repatterning our breath, repatterning the nervous system to be in a parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest, we're actually able to stay in our body more. We're actually able to digest and integrate the information that's coming in. And with our breath, what I've found is with that breath, with our sound is really essential. So many of us are cut off from our voice, and our sexual center are directly connected. So like the more that we work with our sexual center, the more that our voice opens and frees. The more that we work with our voice, the more our sexual center opens and frees, and they're so interconnected. And so, as we navigate, let's say, breath work, and we undulate our spine and we move our sexual center and we work with our sound, that's vibrating through the body. It's vibrating through the nervous system. And so when we combine those deep breaths with our sound and the way that reharmonizes our body with the movement, I've just found that those are like the top 3 things that I've found as like super foundational to reestablishing a more harmonic nervous system state, for us to be able to allow deeper connection with the body, deeper presence with the body, and being able to kind of scan and feel what's happening. Like, once you start repatterning your breath and your nervous system, you will be very aware of when you're in a hypervigilant state, when you're in a fight, flight, or freeze state, like, because it'll feel so different to what you've repatterned your body to. So it's like starting there with the nervous system of just more presence in the body. Or if you can't feel, if you can't bring your awareness to, let's say, your big toe, like with your mind and feel it, you're probably not feeling your nervous system. Like, so it's just really cultivating a sense of presence in the body, which, like, connection with the body, movement, breath, sound, like, that's what I've found is just the foundation of getting more present with the body and recognizing what's happening at the nervous system. And then the next level of that is actually doing more somatic practices that can actually be, us going into these journeys with other people, or, even yoga and massage, deep tissue work, myofascial work. Like, our whole fascial system in our body carries our memory. It's the place that holds this crystalline memory in our body. So when we're going and getting somatic work with practitioners, or sexological body work, where we're going on these journeys somatically with our body, we're able to sense and feel and see what's actually held there. And those are the things that I've just found in my own journey, and that I'm also guiding other people through, is just like the quickest way to expand the nervous system capacity is actually with our erotic energy, because it is a high sensation experience. And the way that when we expand our nervous system capacity for a high sensational experience with our pleasure, it expands our nervous system capacity to stay anchored and stabilized in our body when there's chaos happening around, which is a high sensational experience. So it doesn't turn into trauma and we don't disassociate in that moment. That's where
Wow.
I feel like all of this comes back to, is like, how can we stay in our center and not disassociate amongst high sensational experiences?
Wow, that's powerful, especially right now with so much transition and things shifting quickly. From what you're sharing here, you're giving some incredible insight and techniques and ways to really anchor in for all of these changing places. So I'm really appreciating what you're sharing with us here. One of the things that I'm aware that you work so deeply with the body and working with others in these practices. So I'm certain that through that time of working with the body and getting to know it, the wisdom that's I'm hearing come through you and that I'm feeling in my own body just through your words. It's like, oh, my sort of all of a sudden my shoulders relaxing just by hearing your words. Like I could only imagine what would happen if you were like touching the body, right? Um, so I'm curious about, I want to go into this like remembering of this innocence and
Mm-hmm.
how, that work with the nervous system and coming into presence. Does that lead us to that innocence?
I feel like coming into the somatic part of the body, and that deep, yeah, it feels like such a deep place within, like connecting to our inner children in this place, like, which I want to acknowledge can be really difficult for people, especially if they haven't navigated a lot of pain from their childhood. But what I found is that when we return back to this place within ourselves, within our inner child,
Mm,
who was here just being curious with no frame of reference of right or wrong or shame or anything like that, but actually, like, kids are just in their body. They're following their joy, they're following their pleasure, they're following what feels playful and fun, and they're following their curiosity. And so, like, that's something that I've found is, like, when we can tap into that place within our inner child that actually holds the innocence and the holiness of our desire, like that holy desire for things that feel good. And,
mhm,
from that place, witnessing what then, like, even just now as I'm saying this, like, what's coming up in your mind around, like, allowing yourself to pursue your innocent, holy desire. Like, is there shame? Is there all these other constructs that are layered around that? Like, that feels like the process. And
mhm,
once we can allow ourselves to surrender, like, I feel like this whole process is really around, being in devotion, like coming back to, yes, the innocence of this, but also as the spiritual practice is like, can we be in devotion to surrender, and through that be willing to also take action? Because, like, surrender is not a passive thing. Like,
mhm,
non-doing is still doing. So this surrender piece, and then
mhm,
taking action upon what it is that we discover, our blocks, our gifts, like, what are the desire, like, following that actually leads us to the deliverance of our erotic innocence. And when we can continue to allow our erotic energy to take us on like a shamanic journey. It's like so many people work with plant medicines and things like that. And I do as well sometimes when clearly guided, and they're such powerful teachers. And what I've found is that actually, like, we can access a powerful medicine teacher through our body with our Eros. It's going to bring up and show us what's there,
Uh-huh.
especially when we're engaging with another being. Um, but really, like, holding it as this innocent, sacred energy that is the essence of how we got into a body. And so, like, that's just kind of something I want to bring in to allow more opening with this innocence piece, is
Mm-hmm.
like when we're disconnected from our erotic life force energy,
Mm-hmm.
we are disconnected from a huge part of who we are, because that's how we got into a body. We got
Mm-hmm.
into a body by sacred fluids merging and the spark of life that became us. Like, that's the essence of our entire being. So when we're disconnected from that innocence, we're
Mm-hmm.
disconnected from a huge piece of who we are. And how I see this is really like an aspect of soul reclamation. Like, that's what I found for me, was like when I went and experienced my first sexological bodywork session with someone, I came away from that experience feeling so much more in my body and in the truth of who I am. Like, I could feel a tangible piece of my soul that I reclaimed through my body and through this energy. And, it is a surrender. It's a
Mm-hmm.
surrender piece. It's surrendering into that. And, that can sometimes feel unsafe. It's like many of us have experienced, okay, I'm going to surrender into this. And then we got hurt or something happened. And so it's like just being with all of the things that are blocking us from that surrender, and allowing ourselves um, to be, allowing this to translate into, this is our surrender to the divine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
every way that we show up in our erotic sexual energy is, from my experience, if we allow ourselves to look that deeply into it, a direct reflection with our relationship with God, with source,
Wow.
with the
Mm-hmm.
divine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not in surrender fully and completely to the divine and my guidance of like what I'm here doing in every moment, that's going to show up in my capacity to surrender to a man penetrating me. Like, it's literally, can we allow ourselves to be so penetrated by God that
Mm-hmm.
that also shows up in our capacity to engage in that innocence with another. And um and also, like, that you brought up the word consuming. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've found comes up a lot for men, because when they're engaging in a merging process with someone, their member, their being is consumed
Mm-hmm.
there. And so that's a surrender piece for them. So it's like, in that place, that's when man becomes woman, woman becomes man. It's dissolving into a unified field where the penetration, the consumption, the surrender, all of that it merges into one. And we're accessing all of those parts within us, which is that deep innocence of like who we are as a soul,
Yes.
beyond gender, beyond body, but really like as a soul.
You know, as you're speaking, I'm hearing the surrender control, and it just coming through so strong. Like, how much we've been conditioned and taught, like, you need to line things up this specific way, and how this journey of repatterning for ourselves, our reality. So this surrender of control, of allowing life to penetrate you. Like, I just keep hearing this, like, surrender control and let life penetrate you from
Mm-hmm.
what you're sharing here. And just this, I really resonate, when it comes to like plant medicines, and I myself, like, I can't really participate in, the plant medicines, because my being, the core of me, because once you touch that, in my experience, once you make that connection, how it informs you, how it begins to light up. So I really appreciate you sharing, this surrender and this opportunity we have to repattern our whole lives from a very core essence, from this innate essence, from that spark. I really love how you describe that, the very energy that we came in through, that return back to that. And yet again, getting to create our lives from that consciously, choosing, making those decisions. So I'm really grateful that we've came back through to touch those areas. And this concept of innocence in a world, that being in your innocence hasn't always been safe. You brought up safety earlier. And I think that's a really big piece, how we're afraid. We've been taught like, oh, you don't do this or this or this because, you can get hurt, or this could happen. Or so that opportunity we have to really lean in. See, is this really true for me? What is real for me here? And how edgy that can be
Mm.
to be in that place. So I think there's so much nuance here. There's so much ground, for growth, development. So thank you. Thank you for taking us into that. For me, and I bet for you guys listening that you're also feeling this in your body as she's sharing it. So all of a sudden I can sense, the places where I'm letting life penetrate me, and the places where I'm like, oh, I don't know about that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps through this conversation, for everyone here, maybe there's an opportunity to lean in just a little bit more, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you
Well,
for that.
and one last thing I want to share, just that sparked from this last share of yours, is that piece around, okay, innocence hasn't as necessarily always been safe, right? Because it can be also like taken advantage of, right? So it's like being able, how can we actually integrate our childlike innocence with like the wisdom of our inner elder? And what I've found is, through this lack of sexual education that we've had primarily as a culture, we haven't been empowered for ways to architect fields for that safety. So like really bringing in that structure. And that's why like we're also, many of us are disconnected from our voice. So feeling empowered to ask appropriate questions. And what questions could I ask to allow myself to feel safer? And so that's something that I also support people with, is like giving them a language. The power of the word is architecting realities. And of course, you can make agreements with someone and there's still a chance that they might not adhere to those agreement fields. And when we are empowered with our voice and we have a frame of reference of really like a good protocol and questions to ask before going into these experiences, so that we know if this person that we're engaging with is actually available for what we know that we need to be able to open in those ways and to share in that innocence and feel that sense of safety, then it's giving us a way to kind of like also filter the field through that wisdom, while also like protecting our innocence. It's like a rose and a thorn, like the beauty and the innocence and the softness of the rose, like that's there. And if we, a skilled gardener knows how to honor the thorns and to navigate them. And so like bringing the power of the word and architecting these containers really well is like what I've found for me is the thing that allows me to surrender more easily and be in that innocence and that trust.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm very much a being that flows in that innocent state, and, just understanding the depth and how much really needs to be architected for you to navigate reality, and the potency in what you just shared, like how you can filter the field, how you can be able to see that. And I really love this conversation, because it really brings us, to something that's really dear to me, just innocence is power. That, for so long it's been kind of hidden and tucked away, but it's like everything is leading us back there. And I love that this is the work that you do to guide us back to this place, and all of the techniques and wisdom that you've shared here, and all of the loving healing energy that I've been feeling in my body, and I'm sure everyone else as well receiving from that. Before we get off of here, I'm curious if there's any other last words or something that wants to come through for everyone.
Yeah, what's coming through is just kind of bringing this back around, that Eros is the spiritual path, is that like the more that we're willing to feel and allow and like be present with what is, we can surrender to what is, we can be penetrated by what is, we can penetrate what is, but it all comes through our willingness to feel. And when we fully feel all of it, and not make any of it wrong or better than others, but really from a place of knowing that all is leading us back to ourselves, all is a gift, all is creating learning experiences and giving us data to inform us what is in our highest alignment, what we prefer, what we know we want to create. And when we can really approach this energy, this Eros, in that way, it can become a spiritual path that can lead us into that deep inner union with self, that giving and receiving, that inner polarity, that inner union that isn't being polarized, that's capable of expansion of their own creations by our willingness to feel our pain. We're expanding our capacity to experience pleasure. And the more we expand our capacity to experience our pleasure, the more we're going to be expanding the capacity to feel the pain, that they come hand in hand. And when we aren't willing to feel our pain, that actually is like what it's blocking the capacity for pleasure. Like they go together in that way. And so I just want to share this like essence of feeling the presence with what is, and feeling that that's actually what's going to allow us to integrate and to heal this part of ourselves and help us to remember this erotic innocence.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your love, for your devotion, for sharing with us yet again another powerful way for us to really heal, to really deepen, and to live a life of the prosperity, the purpose, and the pleasure. I am so grateful, so grateful to be here in this conversation with you today, and I know everyone here has served them well too. And as we bid everyone the most miraculous journey, because I know that this is going to speak into each one of you in a very magical way. So do write to us. Let us know if anything is arising for you. We love to hear about it. So with so much love from my heart to each one of you. Thank you. Bye for now. Oh, beautiful hearts, let's take a moment here to breathe into yet another powerful message from our Divinity in Action alchemical movement. I hope you found the teaching shared in this episode to be enlightening and empowering. Also, that you will take space for yourself to work with what was offered for your discovery and growth. Once again, I invite you to unlock your divinity through the wisdom of our speakers and to harness this beautiful energy to your benefit that will increase abundance, clarity, and freedom in every aspect of your life. By experiencing divinity in action, we will break free from past programming and conditioning and fully embody our true selves.